Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's session, Accelerate Your Journey from PeopleSoft to the Cloud. My name is Jeff Edmonius. I am our Vice President for Health, Education, and Public Sector here at Evosys. Been working with PeopleSoft and Oracle applications for about 20 years, and have managed PeopleSoft deployments and upgrades since about 1998 with a variety of universities and public sector customers. I'd also like to introduce John. John?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Weston. I'm the General Manager for North America here at Evosys. I've spent a good part of my career in the Oracle and PeopleSoft space. I was at PeopleSoft in a variety of roles for 8 years, as you can see there, through 2005. And then I started Newberry Consulting Group as a PeopleSoft practice in 2005. So we just celebrated our 15th year anniversary as a PeopleSoft practice. Along the way, we also started an Oracle Cloud practice in 2016, which we then sold to Evosys. And so that has provided me with a rather unique opportunity to work closely with both PeopleSoft customers and Oracle Cloud customers. So I'll share with you some of those experiences during today's presentation.
Thank you, John. And I'd just like to let everyone know on the call that if you'd like to ask a question during the presentation or at the end of the presentation, click the question icon on your toolbar and you can submit those questions, and then we'll respond as best we can. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about Evosys, but I did want to take a quick moment to talk a little bit about the company. Evosys is one of the top Oracle Cloud implementers in the world with more than 1,000 cloud implementations in Oracle. About 80 of these have been transformations from the Oracle on-premise products, PeopleSoft, Evosys Suite, to cloud. And we've helped over 80 customers within the public sector and higher education markets in making these transformations. We've got a strong bench of consultants with more than 1,200 consultants, and when we cover all of the Oracle pillars within that area. We're very proud of some awards that we've received in the last year, both the Global HCM Cloud Partner of the Year, as well as ERPM Cloud Partner of the Year in some of our European areas. We value within Evosys and implementation both customer success as the #1 priority, and doing that through effective project and change management and our value-based delivery, which we'll talk a little bit about later. All right, John, if we want to click. So our agenda for today, we're going to provide you with a detailed roadmap, I would say, of moving from PeopleSoft to the cloud. Focusing on, why cloud, why now, developing the business case, assessing your current HCM or ERP environment in PeopleSoft, and preparing for the implementation migration, and then we'll talk a bit about mitigating risk in the project. Okay, John. So why cloud and why now? And we'll get a little bit into the business case. John, you want to flip to the next one? All right, when we start looking at why would you want to modernize from the current PeopleSoft applications into the cloud, I think it bears to take a look at what are some of the challenges that you're seeing in these industries. And we know that organizations value the investments that you've made in PeopleSoft, and you don't take lightly trying to make the move from PeopleSoft into another environment. And as I thought about this, at first I was thinking in terms of what top 10 IT issues and things like that. And I realized that those issues haven't changed in the last, decade. But what I did see that there were a lot of trends that were impacting our environments that I think have a bigger relevance. The first is a changing of our workforce. I think we've all seen that, as newer employees come into the workforce, into our schools, into our local government agencies, K-12, they've got a different perspective and a different expectation of what work life is like and how they interact with their organization and the systems. there's also change in perceptions. These days, just about anything going on out in the public sphere, there's someone with a phone recording it and broadcasting it. So there's a lot of information out there that maybe wasn't there in the past. And there's a big impact on reputation and relevance, and how that impacts the reputation of your organization, how you're viewed both within and outside the organization with your constituents. We're also seeing the impact of things like outcome-based models, funding within universities from the states based upon the performance of the university and students and enrollments, as well as affordability from a student tuition cost or affordability of services from a local government. So these are having a big impact. And the idea of student-centric and citizen-centric, and being able to build and supply and provide services out of your systems that are very personalized and focused on the individual. And so one common thing that in the past has always been technology, and that that is something that is impacting now. And it's really how well does the technology and the systems that you're using adapt and adopt to these changes in the environment. So, and John, can you lead the group maybe through how to evaluate their current environment?
Sure. I like to start by just noting that PeopleSoft today remains a very solid system and will continue to be a solid system with hundreds, if not thousands, of customers using it. Oracle PeopleSoft has committed to supporting the product for the next 10 years. Plus, they said they would extend it another year every year going forward. There's a decent amount of investment going into the product. There's been a lot of releases in 9.2. I think we're up to 32 releases now. So I mention this because as you evaluate changing off of PeopleSoft and talking to your leadership executives about the move, I would say just be careful to not to be factual about the strength of PeopleSoft. There's kind of some negative press out there sometimes, and I think some of it is not exactly true. Now, with that being said, there are some serious challenges here as we go into 2020. The pace of change is really phenomenal, and everything from what your customers expect, the innovations that are coming along, security concerns, compliance is just nonstop now. And we're all dealing with these constraints that we have, whether it's around infrastructure or processes, our operating model, and our ability to respond to this pace of change is really being challenged. And so, the need is greater than ever to really consider, a new solution in your enterprise. I've seen it like 3 years ago. There were PeopleSoft customers talking about the change, but I'm really starting to see quite a momentum shift in a larger percent of PeopleSoft customers, either moving to the cloud or getting serious about evaluating and planning for the move. When we start to compare PeopleSoft with cloud, there's some key differences, on the traditional on-prem model versus the cloud. One of the challenges, of course, is with PeopleSoft, you've got HCM, you have CX, you have financials in different databases. With Oracle Cloud, it's a unified data model, which does simplify a lot of process, a lot of reporting. We know if you're a PeopleSoft customer for many years, you understand the challenges of staying current, of updating with new releases, and how manual that process is. The cloud, while it hasn't entirely made this an automated process, has made great strides in helping customers keep current with the latest releases. We also find that a lot of PeopleSoft customers, when you step back and look at your footprint, you'll find that you have multiple vendors across the whole HCM and financial and supply chain footprint. And that creates complexities around integrations and process flow interruptions. With Oracle Cloud, we've seen that off of a single platform, you can truly automate the entire organization. And the last thing I'll say is that while PeopleSoft has come out with a lot of releases and a lot of enhancements, they tend to be more tactical in nature. And some of the big innovation changes that are going on out there around AI, chatbots, advanced analytics are not as quickly achievable within a PeopleSoft platform compared to Oracle Cloud. So I'm starting to help you establish some high-level reasons for why Oracle Cloud makes sense. As you look at your options, there's obviously the option to do nothing, but that's going to become more and more of a non-option as time goes by. You also can look at migrating PeopleSoft to Oracle Cloud, the infrastructure cloud. I think that's been an attractive option for some PeopleSoft customers, but it's only addressing really part of the issues that PeopleSoft versus cloud presents. Either way, you certainly would have to keep current with upgrades. So, ultimately it comes down to do I upgrade PeopleSoft? Do I stay current? Do I continue to invest in PeopleSoft, or do I make a move to the cloud? And so, in order to make that decision, it's not an obvious decision, it's not an easy one, but there's definitely some things that can be done to make it a more easily executable process to choose the right option. Here's a few pointers from me. First, just from a, it's really important with your executives that you're able to have very clear and concise reasons to move to the cloud. And this is not a long laundry list. You want to be able to boil it down to maybe 4 or 5 key talking points that are going to resonate with executives and they can get their heads around. From a tactical point of view, if you're on PeopleSoft 9.1 or earlier, you're typically looking at an expensive upgrade to get up to 9.2. So that's certainly money that you could put towards a new implementation. A lot of PeopleSoft customers have been on PeopleSoft for a long time, and so it's not just a matter of upgrading. There's a significant re-implementation that is really required if you're going to really stay with PeopleSoft and optimize your processes going forward, which of course is a significant and costly effort. Many customers going to 9.2 to be able to support Fluid and other features of 9.2 find that their infrastructure is outdated, so they're having to make new investment in hardware. And the current solution landscape, typically it includes PeopleSoft and other solutions, and so you may see there may be a nice opportunity to get more end-to-end solution on a single platform, as I'd mentioned earlier. So from a strategic point of view, here's a few more points to consider. This point about cloud innovation is really not easily achieved with PeopleSoft. Some examples might be, automated accounts payable processing, or state-of-the-art recruiting, or chatbots for your HCM self-service, employee self-service, or starting to leverage Internet of Things in the asset tracking. These are examples where some can be achieved with PeopleSoft, but not nearly as easily. Some of you are also finding that PeopleSoft support is becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. I know I see it with our PeopleSoft practice. A lot of consultants have either retired, moved on to cloud, and we don't see a younger workforce coming into PeopleSoft skill sets. Many of you, it's always the case that business is asking for more improved analytics. Some of you have made investments with PeopleSoft over the years to try to deliver on those analytic requirements, but you also probably have opportunities to really improve the analytics. So that would be another key consideration in moving to cloud. And last but not board, your top leadership, we see increasingly that they're under pressure from the external influencers to stay current. You know, the question starts to come up, you know, why aren't we on the cloud? Why haven't we moved to the cloud? You're going to hear that more and more. So hope that's helpful to you in developing the business case. I'm going to segue now into talking about you know, how you start this process. And it starts with assessing your current environment and starting to think about the preparations for a migration. We here at Evosys have had the benefit, as Jeff said, of doing this about 80 times now. And so with that experience, we've built you know, a very extensive toolkit that makes this process much easier than it was a few years ago. So basically, that little icon is telling us, you know, it's a lot easier to move the ball forward than it has been in the past. So I'm going to give you a sense of our Glide program. It's more about, you know, understanding. You know, it's good. I think you'll appreciate that we have a program, but understanding, you know, any partner that you choose and having these key tools is going to be important for you. So this is our program called Glide. I'm going to walk you through each of these pieces and help you put it all together from the very start to you know, post go live support. And I'll start with the assessment. And so what we've done is we've built it's an SQR. Those of you in PeopleSoft world know what that is. And it's an SQR that we've written that will basically analyze the metadata in your PeopleSoft HCM and financials environments and provide output and detail on how much, well, a number of things about your environment. So basically, we just need to email the SQRs to you. This is a complimentary assessment. We don't charge for it. You'll install the SQRs into your PeopleSoft environments and run them. They'll output a spreadsheet for each environment, send that back to us. We'll probably go through a couple iterations to interpret the results, and then we're going to generate a nice report for you and review it with your team. This report, it'll give a current landscape snapshot of what you have, what versions you're on, the key volumes across your system, what applications you're running, and then it also provides a really nice snapshot of the level of customization that exists in your environment today, and you know, where those environments have been applied, where those customizations have been applied, and start to talk about, you know, how realistic is it to move, you know, do you need to move some of these things forward to cloud? How well will cloud cover you for the customizations that you have made? These are questions that people are going to ask during the process, so we want to get ahead of it. So this assessment, like I said, is complimentary, and it's really been helpful as a kickstart to your program. So the next step is the insight, where you need to, you know, build the business case and identify the KPIs that are going to really measure the value going forward. And so some of you have heard that, you know, Oracle has an insight program. Our insight program is somewhat similar. It can often be a bit more streamlined than the Oracle program, but also we can tie our insight more closely to the project plan and the implementation proposal to move you to cloud. The insight is executed through a brief series of workshops. We want to meet with your key business leaders to understand, you know, what are the key objectives and the vision for this transformation. We want to meet with department heads, understand the key challenges and pains across the departments, zero in on the opportunities for improvement. And then this is key, is to identify the top potential KPIs in each of the process areas that can be monitored and improved during this cloud transformation. So some examples might be, you know, we need to reduce employee turnover, or we need to reduce the time to fill new positions in talent acquisition, or we need to reduce accounts payable cycle time. And so it's these KPIs that will form the basis for why it makes sense from a business point of view to move to cloud and the ROI that's behind it. So here's an example where we've reduced cycle time for accounts payable invoice date to AP invoice creation. So that's the KPI we want to zero in on. We're going to take a look at the benchmarks and baselines that are out there for upper, medium, and lower bottom quartile. Of course, we want to target the upper quartile. We want to measure where you are today with respect to this KPI, and then set a target measure. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go about implementing this system, configuring the accounts payable invoice solution with a focus on reducing this cycle time. But this is where we're also quite unique. Evosys is going to provide a dashboard for you that's driven off of the underlying cloud data that's going to enable us to easily monitor this KPI and the usage statistics that drive the success of this KPI. We're going to work closely with you to establish the SLA, the workflows around it, and make sure that the delivery team is doing the right things on their end to ensure that we achieve the benefit that we're working on. And then we're going to want to come back 6 months after go live and 1 year after, and look at this KPI and the others that we identified at the beginning of the process, and really quantify that we either got the benefit that we were after from the, or take corrective action to continue process improvement to achieve the benefit that we're after. So that's a bit on our insight in building the business case. Now I'm going to segue into talking about some of the advisory services that you're going to need from any partner that you go with. There's typically a number of opportunities to improve over what you have today. This is not a lift and shift type of procedure going from PeopleSoft to cloud. There's a good chance you're going to want to take a hard look at your chart of accounts, your HR work structures. You may or may not have had a fairly big investment in reporting and analytics in your PeopleSoft environment that is going to need to transition to cloud. There's many best practices that are provided by Oracle Cloud that you don't necessarily have in PeopleSoft that, of course, we'll want to take advantage of. And then, as I said earlier, there's a number of innovations that you can take on today. And even though many of you might think, well, some of these things like AI and Internet of Things are out there on the horizon, but we don't need to worry about them right away, I'd really encourage you to look for maybe 1 or 2 of these technologies that can be included in your initial transformation, because it'll really help build the business case. It'll help really visualize for everyone why you're doing this. A good example is chatbots for your employee self-service. Being able to just on my phone to just say how much PTO do I have right now. That's a very simple example, but chatbots are making a great impact on that self-service experience. So there's also some key nuts and bolts that you're going to want help with, just starting with basic things like the mapping of PeopleSoft modules to the Oracle Cloud modules, and helping your team start to quickly understand how we're going to go from the PeopleSoft world to the Oracle Cloud world. For those of you in higher ed and public sector, there's specific modules in Oracle Cloud that may or may not be available in the PeopleSoft world. Student management has a star there because that's the parallel to campus solutions. Oracle's taking a very conservative, but we think smart approach in not rushing to market with this functionality. But the timing and the sequencing of when to introduce student management is another key consideration, that a partner like Evosys will be able to help you with.
John, there was a question on that one, if you can go back. So about campus solutions, and I think what I'd add to that discussion, so yes, I think we're waiting for the full rollout of student management within the cloud for our higher education customers. However, in advance of that, there's still quite a bit that can be done from the standpoint of implementing other cloud products, whether that be cloud financials, HCM, talent management, EPM for planning and budgeting, as well as going into some of the technology areas within the cloud that can help improve your overall applications environment and make you more modern and give a more modern face to your students. In fact, many of the current higher education implementations have leveraged the hybrid model where finance and HCM have been moved to the cloud. They're interfacing still with the campus solutions, or it might be a banner student system. And then as student management comes online, then that would be the next phase.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Here's another example of where you want a nice toolkit to help with terminology. So in PeopleSoft GL Business Unit in Oracle Cloud is called legal entity. A lot of the terms are similar, but we definitely see differences across all the modules. So it's good to really help everyone transition on the vocabulary. Here's a good one. In the PeopleSoft world, you guys all know that we have set IDs, and then we associate set IDs with companies and business units and departments, etc. Oracle Cloud has something similar with their reference data sets, but the hierarchy is different. It's actually more flexible. And so being able to figure out how to map from your current environment or what enhancements you might want to make to take advantage of the Oracle Cloud structures is a key thing to understand right up front. Evosys has developed some specific higher education and public sector toolkits. I won't go into all these details, but these are process areas specific, in this example, to higher ed, say, alumni outreach in CX or student financial aid processing. There's some payroll things that are specific to higher ed. So having visibility to some of these things that are very specific to higher ed and how those transition from PeopleSoft to cloud is really going to help facilitate your implementation. This is a similar toolkit that we have on the local government side around budgeting, around payroll, around all finance, procurement, all the key areas. Little small things that we've learned along the way that are specific to local government that make it easier to map your PeopleSoft to your future Oracle Cloud processes. So when it comes to actually migrating to cloud, there's some key tools that you're going to want to facilitate this process. And it really is going to be really important to start with a really solid methodology. Many of you implemented PeopleSoft many years ago. You may still remember how hard it was, but you may not have done a lot of big projects, at least in ERP and HCM since then. But it's just so critical to have a well-established methodology for this process. And so Evosys or other good partners will bring to the table a well-defined methodology. One of the things I've observed, when I compare cloud to PeopleSoft is this conference room pilot, the ability to have a conference room pilot much sooner, have your users and business leaders having their hands on the system much earlier in the process is something that's really facilitated our implementations that we've seen. There's some other key components. Change management is going to be significant. So you want to make sure you have a really solid strategy for change management and a good toolkit to back it up. Project management is going to be key. Project management methodology, and a project leader who's done this before. Data migration, I'm going to talk to in more detail in a minute, but that's a key part of the whole process of migrating all that data that you have in PeopleSoft over to cloud, and then having an understanding of the higher ed and public sector specifics as they relate to Oracle Cloud, similar to the toolkits that I was just talking about. So having a solid methodology is step number one. So now I want to talk to you about data migration. And so the data migration can really be tricky. we've seen at least 2 or 3 PeopleSoft migrations in the last 5 years that literally failed because of the team's inability to migrate the data. And it doesn't have to be that hard. The process at a high level is what you'd expect, right? We're going to have an extraction, a transformation, and then a load. But Oracle does deliver some tools to help in this, but they're not really that robust. And so we've developed a set of tools around data extraction and around data migration that tremendously facilitate this process. Many of you are going to want to take a good hard look at data quality as well. As you make this move, you're going to want to clean up as much data as you can in your PeopleSoft environment, but some of that data cleanup is going to happen during the transformation stage. So you're going to need good tools to accomplish that. So what we've done is we've set up migration templates for all the key areas in ERP and HCM. So this is just a partial listing of the key master tables, so suppliers, customers, etc. In ERP, and then the transactions around AP, AR. You typically want to bring some of these transactions across. You want some history out there, and having these pre-developed migration scripts is going to be really important. Same on the HCM side. HCM is a little easier than ERP. There aren't as many data migrations, but job history is a key one. Our general advice there is don't try to bring all your job history across. We had a customer recently that they started by saying, hey, we want to bring 7 years across. And but when we really looked at the data, we could see that a lot of the configurable data elements had changed over those 7 years, and so it implied that we would have to bring all those old values, effective dated and no longer active, across to support the data model. And so ultimately, we decided to just bring over the last couple years, and then make sure that the last 7 years of data was going to be available in a reporting repository for access as required. So what we've done is we've built out all of the table mapping between PeopleSoft and Oracle. This saves literally hundreds of hours. And then we've identified all the transformations that we know have to take place between PeopleSoft and cloud. And to go along with these data mappings, we built in PeopleTools, we built a migration tool. So basically, we're able to take this data map and put it into PeopleTools, and so it shows the mapping in PeopleTools between PeopleSoft and cloud. And then there's also a way to do transformations. So this is a simple example, but say in PeopleSoft it's CA and FL, and in cloud we want California and Florida. So those transformations can take place as the data is being extracted. And then we have an app engine that you run against these configurations that actually extracts the data and puts it into a format that's ready for loading. Then on the loading side, Evosys has built a very nice platform that's proprietary. But any partner you work with, you're going to want to make sure that they have a platform like this. So you're going to want to stage the data outside of Oracle Cloud. You're going to want to be able to apply transformation algorithms, do validations, and then you're going to import that data into Oracle Cloud and do a reconciliation to know that all the data did in fact come across. So it's really important that this process is streamlined, is bug-free, it runs quickly, and you don't want to start from scratch in developing this capability. So to summarize here, as far as the automated data migration, it's a key success factor. You're going to want a high degree of automation in this extract, transform, and load process. There's huge time savings working, with someone like Evosys that has predefined migration strategies and plans, and these predefined data maps that I've talked to you about, as well as that platform for the whole end-to-end data transformation. And there's definitely going to be a need to transform data in that middle layer. So just be prepared for that. We don't want to get overly bogged down on it. But like I said, that's where we've seen some real failures in the past by organizations' inability to properly transform their PeopleSoft data. And obviously, we want to remove as much manual intervention as we can during this whole data process. So moving along to the last stage, the process, is really just in some ways begins when you go live. You're going to go through a period just like if you remember back when you went live with PeopleSoft. You go through this hypercare period where you're stabilizing the system. You're going to want to be very thoughtful about that stabilization period. You're going to want to plan for it appropriately, make sure that enough months of time is planned for. We would typically see a stabilization period of at least 8 to 12 weeks. There's a lot going on for the users. It's not just train them and turn them loose. You're going to want to have a continuous follow-up, provide more training, make sure they're adopting the system. So these are all things that you want plans in place and lessons learned from other migrations around how to really best transition your users to the new system. And of course, with any new big implementation, you won't be able to do everything. So you're going to have that post go live list that you're going to want to address. There's going to be additional reporting you're going to want to do. There's going to be issues along the way that have to be resolved. So you want just really good structures in place to manage all of this process for continuous innovation. So one of the things that's unique for Evosys is we've developed a set of dashboards that we include with an Evosys implementation. And these dashboards lie on top of the Oracle Cloud application. They're all built with the Oracle technology. There's no extra license required for these dashboards. And these dashboards are really focused on the key business APIs that we know you're going to want to be implementing. And this is one of the key value propositions, right? In building your business case, we're going to have better analytics from day one. So we have these key dimensions organized into 3 areas. So the first area is just better analytics. So I gave you the cycle time example, or improving employee turnover, filling new positions more quickly. These are examples of analytics that you're going to want day one. You also are going to be looking to streamline processes, take advantage of best practices that are built into the solution, and we're going to want KPIs that measure the speed of our redesigned, re-engineered processes. And then the last area is the efficiency of your workforce. There's clearly a never-ending need to improve the productivity of our workforce, and so having KPIs that measure user adoption and measure the efficiency and productivity of the workforce are also going to be key. So we provide this whole overlay along with our implementation, but more importantly is that this is a critical part of the business case on why to move off of PeopleSoft, not just so that you'll have better analytics, but so that you can zero in on what you're going to improve by going to cloud and how you're going to measure that improvement. So last talking area here is just mitigating project risk. So this is just a summary, if you will, of our recommendations for ensuring success before you get started. So the first point is, oh, is there a comment? No.
Hi, John. That was me.
Oh, okay. The first point is, know what your goals are and how you're going to measure success. And this ties back to that big picture understanding of why we're making this move and how we're going to measure it. The second thing is the business case to support the move to the cloud. Don't make it over complex. I've seen customers develop these huge elaborate ROI models, and at the end of the day, I don't think executives can get their heads around that. I think you need to keep the business case not simple, but just really strategic and easy for executives to understand. And the strategic reasons are there. Hopefully today we've given you an understanding of what some of those are. Make sure that your measurable end goal supports the company vision. So whether it's improving talent acquisition, improving employee retention, improving employee experience in the HCM areas, or perhaps reducing administrative overhead in the back office, whatever that is, you may want to make sure that it's measurable and well-defined and that it supports the company vision. Also, just know the innovations and enhancements you're going to gain by moving to the cloud. Be articulate. Know the top 3 things, innovations that you're going to be able to accomplish, so that you can make those easy talking points that executives can also start to adopt and work into their thinking and their description of why it makes sense for the organization to move to cloud. We've also this afternoon talked to you about having the right tools and accelerators to really save time and money during the implementation process. Hopefully we gave you a good flavor for the types of tools that you're going to want to have a partner bring to the table to make this process as easy as can be. And last but not least is ensuring that your transformation partner is going to share risks with you. And I'm going to ask Jeff to comment a bit more on this.
Sure. Thank you, John. And so I think John talked a bit about some of the components of our value-based delivery approach, and really what we work to do within that approach is identify the key KPIs within your environment and the project, and we are willing to set up our program so that we actually tie deliverables and results to those KPIs. We're willing to hold back a portion of those deliverables for payment to having achieved the KPIs as a result of the project. As John mentioned before, we have dashboards that we've applied into your environment so that we're able to track your progress and to identify and show the success of what we've done with you in your transformation. And then finally, in doing that, we're willing to share that risk and benefit with you as a partner.
Yeah, and we in Evosys' case, what I've seen, unlike PeopleSoft world, is your partner should be willing to do these transformations on a fixed price basis. And that may sound alien to you, but if a partner's done it before, if they have confidence in doing this, in the cloud world, fixed price is much more manageable than it was in the PeopleSoft world. Go ahead, Jeff.
All right. And then finally, as we've talked a lot about the process and the roadmap of how to transform from PeopleSoft to the cloud, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the actual customers that we've had that have successfully made this transformation. First example here is Shaner Hotel Group. It's a group of about 200 hotels, started their project a few years ago, and successfully migrated both ERP and HCM modules in the cloud. Allowed them to really drive automation and communication within their organization and promote performance, across management teams across all of those 200 locations. Second example here on the public sector mode, London Borough of Lambeth. So this is a, I'd say a medium-sized governmental entity. They also did a comprehensive transformation for ERP, EPM, HCM, and payroll. I think that the real key in their story is just this last sentence, 12 months within budget and no great drama. They were able to click the switch, move forward. And actually, this is one that the video itself is available online, and you can hear the whole story from their director. And then lastly, Technical University of Denmark recently completed an 11th month cloud transformation to the HCM module, including some interesting things that we did around, specifically with Evosys, around faculty recruiting, some of the technologies like chatbots and robotic process automation. And their next step is actually moving into ERP. All right, John, move to the next slide.
Jeff, have we received any questions?
Now's
a good time if anyone has any.
We have actually had a few questions, and if you have more, this would be a great time to ask. So first question we had, so it was, is PeopleSoft being replaced by Fusion? And I think, go ahead, John, do you want to take that one? Or I can.
Well, yeah, well, I think, first of all, I would use Fusion was the term. I think more and more they call it Oracle Cloud, but I would say definitely Oracle Cloud is certainly the future. It is replacing PeopleSoft, but as I said at the beginning, PeopleSoft is not being abandoned. So in that respect, for some organizations, PeopleSoft will continue to be the right choice. So I wouldn't say it's a replacement. I'd say it's the next generation.
Thanks, John. I think I'd add to that, in many cases, the cloud applications extend and expand the capability that they currently have in PeopleSoft. The second question is there still going to be a need for a system admin or a PeopleSoft admin like they have today?
Yeah, the short answer is that you definitely need someone who's administering the system, but it's different. Like there's no technology, there's no infrastructure layer that has to be administered. Unlike PeopleSoft, I would say that it becomes more of a understanding the configuration and how you change the configurations over time. The other thing I'll say though is that I think it's easier to outsource system administration in the Oracle Cloud world than it was in the PeopleSoft world. There's just more options available both on and offshore to consider. Evosys has a really good program in this respect. But yes, you will need some system administration of some sort.
Okay, the next couple of questions are actually, I think, somewhat related. So how could, if there's an interest, how would you get started? And John, I'll take a shot at that. Maybe you can add to it. I think that's, depending on where the customer is in your process, we would want to engage with you and either start with a discovery meeting, an assessment, or starting an insight program. And then I think the second related question is, how long does the insight process take?
Mm-hmm. Well, there are some variables there depending on how big your PeopleSoft footprint is, what's the size of your organization. But I guess the short answer is probably it could be as small as a few days and as much as a couple weeks. We don't like to see it go beyond 2 weeks. But that should give you an idea of the time frame.
Okay. One more question, and once again, if you do have questions, just click on the question mark on your toolbar. This question is, what is really different about Glide versus other methodologies like SOAR? And we might want to define what SOAR is to give a quick explanation of what SOAR is.
Right, so SOAR is Oracle Professional Services program for transitioning people from cloud. I would say that there are some similarities. I don't think the SOAR program it certainly, especially on the ERP side, is as evolved as the Evosys one, primarily because we got an early start in this process, and we've done 80 to date, 80 customers to date. So that's helped us a lot to get this program to be very mature at this point. But there, to be fair, there are similarities between the programs, but there's definitely differences as well.
Right. And John, I think what I would add to that is I agree. I think some of the tools and accelerators that we have developed within Evosys are more advanced than perhaps what we might see with SOAR, as well as some of the mappings that have been defined. And then lastly, I think the dashboards that you had described as part of our Insight program, those dashboards that we're able to actually implement into the environment, I think is something unique to our process that allows the customers to really be able to see how they're progressing.
Good point. Good point. And it's unique to Evosys to, this process of identifying the KPIs up front that are going to drive the value, and then making sure that those KPIs are embedded in the system, providing the tool set to monitor them, and then tying the actual performance and the achievement of those measures of success to the contract is definitely a uniquely Evosys feature.
Agreed. Are there any more questions? All right, John, I think that might be the last of the questions.
Okay. Good. Well, thank you, everyone. Please reach out to us if you'd like to have a follow-up call. Happy to talk in more detail on a one-on-one basis.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.